Endings and new beginnings, endings and new beginnings, the cycles of life, the timing, the ways, the rituals, endings and new beginnings, what you grasp, what you don't grasp, how you connect and how you disconnect, or do you disconnect? These are the topics of today related to your life and astrology. My name is Stacy Patrice. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Make sure you listen all the way to the end, like, share, subscribe, and of course, comment. So I rose with this today to talk about endings and beginnings, because one of the themes that's been throughout my life, at least since I've been a yogini and have been practicing all of these different ways of being, different ways of understanding not just self, but life, have opened up into the sciences and all these things. I've always understood myself to be a person who bridges between the endings and the new beginnings. And so I say that because as a consultant, as a coach, as a teacher, as someone who has information, I tend to go to the ending and see where it is that we actually are before I move to the new beginning. So even if somebody says the ending has ended, I'm done with it. Is that true? Because sometimes your ending is where you're going, but you don't know that yet because you're starting a new cycle, but your ending is where you're going. So the thing that ended is actually what you're coming back around to in a new octave. But if you're not paying attention to the ending and you're just trying to get to the new beginning, then you don't understand that you are already in process to repeat a thing that you think you're done with if you are not contexting it as such. What I'm saying to you, for instance, is before we move into a new year, we have to fully understand the fruits of the previous year. And I mean that whether your new year is a new calendar year, whether it is a new birthday year, whether it is a new seasonal year, whether it is a new lunar year, whatever determines your new year. How much time do you spend looking at the conclusion and the closing and really getting the lessons and the things there so that you understand them? Did you really get a grasp of what was there before you decide to move into the newness of the thing? Because the newness can be quite addictive. We can say, ooh, this thing over here is pulling me, it's calling me, I want to be with it. But we haven't really actually discovered what the end is communicating. And the end is going to be in constant communication through your new beginning because it is literally the point that birthed the new path. So, in most instances, skipping over the ending is to guarantee to repeat it. And we see this in our relationships. We see this in people's trajectories of growth. But you have to understand what that end was really about and why you were given the grace or the experience of it ending. See, there's a lot of potential in an ending. An ending is looking very much like all of the things that were possible, now deciding that they have come to a stillness, a standstill, a stalemate, that this is now no longer moving in the way that we once thought it was or the way we hoped it would be. This ending is now seemingly stopping. But what is actually stopping is grasping. It's grasping. The ending is the end of grasping to that thing as being the thing, right? So whether that is, I think of this in terms of all kinds of endings, whether that is the physical ending of a life, whether that is the ending of a cycle that is painful, tumultuous, whether that is the ending of, anything that expires is an ending. So we can go to the food level. Anything that expires is an ending. Now, all the possibilities of what you were going to do with this ingredient are now impossible because it is expired. It is the ending. That doesn't mean that you can't go to the store and get another one, or that doesn't mean that you can't somehow find a new way to do a thing that ended. See, everything is not about the physicality and the material of things. Some things are really about the essence and where that essence pauses, slows down, or stops, where it is activated and where it becomes new again and is given new life. It's not just about maturity. It's not just about elderhood into new life and new births. It's not just about always being the baby and being excited to be the baby. Maturity is seasoned. Maturity is like your favorite meal with the best seasonings. Maturity and growing into age toward the expiration, but not at the expiration, is the most fruitful aspect. You don't want that fruit before it's ripe. You definitely don't want that meal if it's unseasoned. You want the seasoning. So the seasoning is the wisdom. It's the grace that you get to grow into before a thing ends. Y'all have to hear me. When you get to the point that something is coming to a close, the richest, most fruitful part of it is right before. And so you can't wait for that thing to close to celebrate it. You can't wait for that thing to end to say, wow, that was really rich. But if that's what you have to do, if you have the ability to go back and get it at that point, it's a beautiful time to get it. But what's more beautiful for most people is to say, wow, that ended. I don't know what to do, but I'm just going to take this grief or take this loss or take whatever it is and just transfer it to the new and try and be optimistic. That's called bypassing, y'all. Because there is a process from the ending to the new beginning. There is a process from the ending to the resurrection, from the old thing to the rebirth of a thing. That is an important aspect. I'm getting excited. That is an important, it's a hammock. There's an important aspect that's happening right there, and it's a transfer. And that transfer is really important for context for the new because you're never starting anything completely from scratch. You're always leveraging experience, energy, understanding, knowledge, wisdom, personality, all of the things, potential. You're always leveraging. So whether you have a business that is ending and you don't know what your next step is, whether you are at the end of your resources and you don't know what your next step is, or whether you are feeling your mortality in any way and you don't know what the next step is, that is all the same process. Some you are more attached and some you are holding on to stronger than others. And this is where the real fruit is. It's in you understanding your grasp. Your grasp is what is connecting you and holding you to the thing that inevitably will restart, will expire, and begin as something somewhat new. But we often don't understand endings in this way. We often understand endings in a way that inspires so much hurt and pain and loss and doesn't ever give us the opportunity to celebrate the fruits. You must celebrate the fruits of what has expired. You must celebrate it. I'll say this, just to have a light moment. When I go to the store and I buy avocados, I'm like, ooh, ooh, because I love a good avocado. I love a beautiful, aesthetically beautiful, perfectly ripe avocado. I love it. I love it. I love to see that green. I love to see that big seed, and I love to place it on my plate. I love to either mash it or work with its texture. I love a good ripe avocado, right? But at the same time, what happens when that love and that potential that those avocados represented to me just sits around my house for too long? And then I realized that the avocado is past the expiration of what the potential was that the avocado could be, it could do. And I just held on to the avocado a little too long. I let my excitement kind of just sit there and fester and turn into another state. I did not utilize what I bought the avocados for. So now I might have one avocado with some brown spots that I can use. That's not too brown, as opposed to four beautifully ripe green avocados. See, we often don't like things as they get towards that end state. We often like to throw things away before they even get to the expiration, but especially when they're at the expiration, we say, okay, that's done now. Moving on. And that's not the way it is. That's not the way it is. So, whether it has been in teaching and ceremony and celebration, that bridge between the endings and the new beginnings has always been a favorite of mine because I get to look at something in its full essence and energy and understand it. And in astrology, this is pointed out through two concepts. So one is a yogic concept, which connects to astrology and helps you understand the astrological concept. So in the limbs of yoga, we have the concept of aparigraha, which means non-grasping. All right, aparigraha, non-grasping means don't grasp too tightly. Never give up, but always let go. Let something go. Let it loose. Don't hold on to it. Don't cling to it too tightly. Don't grasp it too tightly. Don't make it part of who you are. Don't make it your personality. Don't make it your being, your essence, your energy, your attitude. You cannot hold on things that long. Those things tend to change your nature, tend to change the way that you understand things. And they also bring a lot more suffering. Aparigraha, in my experience, one of the ways I see it in, just everyday life is approaching each day with the same potential. Now, it might not have the same timing, right? That's important, but it may have the same potential. Like I potentially could wake up every day and say, I'm going to create a video, and I don't know what that video is going to be. I'm going to let the timing determine which video comes forth, such as what happened today. But I am not going to allow my process to get stale. I'm allow it to remain active. Allow it to remain alive. And what comes forth from me is what is best for that time because I am in tune and I am aligning with what that energy is. I'm allowing that energy to be what it is. I'm not grasping to plans that say this is the way it has to be. It has to happen at this time. It has to happen at this way. It has to happen at this frequency. And these amount of people have to be there for it. I'm not doing that. I'm allowing that to be something that continues to exist. It has a lifespan. It has a lifeline. And I know at one point I will not be thinking about waking up and creating a video. I am clear about that. Right? Just like astrologically, I know that there are things that are happening in the sky, things that are happening in my chart, and also things that are represented by the natural chart. And those three things being like cogs on a wheel that overlap, and they are turning and changing like a Rubik's Cube at any point in time. And your only hope is that they line up perfectly for you. That what is natural to the chart, what is natural in my chart, and what is natural to what's happening in the sky at a certain time are all interchanging and aligning together. But the truth is, it's not going to always be a wall with all the same colors on each side. It's not going to always align like that. Matter of fact, it's most often not going to align like that. But that doesn't mean that life is not continuous. That doesn't mean that motion is not continuous. And so what we have is a parigraha, non-grasping. And I'm not talking about just detachment. I'm not saying like, I'm going to protect myself, so I'm going to let go. That's detachment. I'm talking about non-grasping. Non-grasping doesn't cut something off without movement being connected. It does not say that something ending is the end. It says that there is still life and potential and purpose and things are still moving, but not in that way right now. That's what a parigraha says. You don't have to keep something just because it's in that form right now. It's not moving in that way right now. It's alive. It has essence. And the same is true on the astrological side. Here's why. Because in astrology, in Vedic astrology, sidereal astrology, but particularly